All right, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we are now live.
Good evening and welcome to the November 15, 2023 meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Bob Sutton and I'm the chair, and I would like for commission members and staff to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Jeffrey Haynes.
Karen Burdett.
Julie Pelletier.
Zara Nasser.
Michael Galway.
Mark Dominiani.
John Liebert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff, and Dan Bruckert is in attendance as well for Historic Preservation Staff.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is historic area work permits. Have the work permits been advertised?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they were advertised in the November 1st edition of the Washington Times.
Thank you. If there's anyone here to testify for any of the cases, please give a speaker form to the staff. They will let us know that you are here to address one of the cases. We're going to begin by expediting cases we believe can be expedited based on staff reports. Case number 1A at 7207 Willow Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case number 1B at 19820 White Ground Road, Boyds. Case number 1D at 22 West Irving Street, Chevy Chase. Case number 1E at 4 East Irving Street, Chevy Chase.
Mr. Chair, hearing no objections, I move that we approve the following historic area work permits in accordance with the staff reports based upon the record before us and in consideration of the recommendations of the local advisory panels, including the conditions recommended by staff. HOP number 1046207 at 7207 Willow Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1046013 at 19820 White Ground Road, Boyds. HOP number 1048008 at 22 West Irving Street, Chevy Chase. HOP number 1047919 at 4 East Irving Street, Chevy Chase.
This is Commissioner Haynes. I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All of these have been approved, and thank you for preparing projects that are easy for us to approve. That makes our life easy, and we appreciate it. Next on our agenda is preliminary consultations, and the first one is 2A at 11650 Snowden Farm Parkway in Germantown. And this is a master plan site, the House Farm. And do we have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do. We have a brief staff report. The applicants are joining us remotely, so they'll make a presentation when I'm finished. And this is a project that we've seen several times over the last couple of years. It's the House Farm master plan site. The house was constructed circa 1884, and there were modifications to the house throughout the 1920s. Most accessory buildings were constructed in the 20s and the 30s. The HPC recently approved the demolition of 3 small outbuildings, and this is designated under criteria 1A as an excellent example of a late 19th and early 20th century family farm. 2A for embodying the distinctive characteristics of a high-style Gothic revival farmhouse, and 2E as an established and familiar feature in the community once dominated by family farms. So again, in June of last year, the HPC approved the demolition of the handyman house, the pump room, and the dairy equipment / hen house building. There was an added condition that the applicants install interpretive signage along Snowden Park Farm. That's still ongoing. And then in January 2023, the HPC approved a hop for a sign at the property entrance that was approved by consent. So this is an aerial showing the site plan. The house is centrally located. These 3 buildings have been demolished. So the applicant proposes to remove the existing metal shingle and standing seam metal roof and replace it with an architectural shingle roof with sections of standing seam. It's a master plan site. This is to be reviewed under 24A8 specifically, and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation. The roof is in some pretty sorry shape. This is no fault to the current owners and the applicant. There were some skylights cut into the roofing material at one point. Repairs have been done with tar over time, and the roof is leaking and needs to be replaced. The applicant's presentation also has some additional photographs. So the sections of standing seam metal are the wraparound porch and then a lower pitch section of the gable on the front side. So staff finds that the existing roof is in poor shape and is leaking, and that the previous repairs have failed and the roof cannot be further repaired. Staff finds that the existing historic pressed metal shingles are a character-defining feature of the house and should be replaced in kind per standards 5 and 6. And staff finds that metal shingles manufactured by Barrage are available and would be an exact match for the existing shingles. Staff does not find that the cost of the replacement roof would cause an undue hardship for the owner. And staff finds that the owner is a nonprofit conducting a rehabilitation work on a master plan site, is eligible for certain grant funding, which would help defray the total cost of the roof. And staff encourages the HPC to direct the applicant to work with staff to find some of these funding sources. Rebecca, did you want to add anything about those?
Sure. Rebecca Ballo for the record. Recently, our office and the office out of Heritage Montgomery have worked with the Scotland AME Zion Church to process a boundary amendment to the Montgomery County Heritage area so that the church in that instance could be wrapped into the heritage area, and that enabled them to qualify for $100,000 in emergency grant funding, and then also allowed them to qualify for subsequent heritage area grants. And every year, not-for-profit groups in Montgomery County, as well as government agencies, apply through the Maryland Heritage Area Program for capital grant funding for planning work, but also for building repair and rehabilitation. And this property is also right on the boundary of the heritage area. So I would be prepared to work with the applicant to seek such a boundary amendment and additional grant funding from the state, and also to work with them to bring this to the attention of others in Montgomery County government who, the Scotland Church also qualified for other grants, and other not-for-profits do as well. We've had a lot of success in that arena. Another example is the Flower Theater that you all just saw that received grant funding for their facade rehabilitation. The bottom line is there are a lot of programs out there that we have expertise and experience in obtaining grant funds for property owners, and we could do the same for this property owner. It's no guarantee, but that is certainly an option that we think is worth exploring.
Thank you. Having said that, in the interim, we strongly encourage the applicant to tarp the roof to prevent any further water damage in the interim. So this preliminary consultation is being held to answer the question, will the HPC require a roof replacement in kind on the house, or is an architectural shingle acceptable in this instance? And I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Burdett.
Speaking to the Barrage shingles being an exact match, would the system installation, the assembly with the underlayment, and I assume by now they probably need new sheathing up on the roof, would the assembly system actually be a much better improvement over just the asphalt shingles as far as the length that the roof will last, and also any sort of waterproof membrane and insulation that's feasible?
So, the current roof is shot through, so all the underlayment needs to get replaced as well. So, the architectural shingle that they're interested in pursuing has a 50-year lifespan. The Barrage shingles, I believe their warranty is for 75 years. So we're looking at half again as long for the warranty. I believe that this is the original roof. So, the house has had one roof, or one and a half when they made the changes. So what you see has lasted a really, really long time. It's probably up about 5 years longer than it should have been. but all metal materials will last longer than the architectural shingle.
Another question. They can apply for the grant, or the grant would be the optimum use or way for them to pay for this roof. But if they didn't get that, couldn't they get a tax use?
As a
They're
nonprofit, unfortunately, it
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. So, I
Yeah,
mean, there
thought
are.
about that too.
There are a variety of grant sources. Some require a match, some require no match. So it really depends on what funding source they get approved from. So, I mean, in the case of Scotland Church, they received a grant that required no match. And, in that dollar amount, it would cover a significant portion or all of the roof replacement here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pelletier?
Thank you. I don't know if you've done price comparison, but how much more expensive are the barrage shingles than the architectural asphalt shingles?
So I've previewed the applicant's presentation. They will get into that.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Haynes.
Is the barrage, is the existing shingles a barrage product, or it's just that barrage matches that?
So Barrage actually bought the presses that can replicate the shingle. So I think the gauge of metal is a little bit thicker than what is on the roof now. But because they use the same machinery, the stamped shingles have the exact same dimensions and profiles as what's up there now.
And are there any other metal shingle manufacturers out there that we might consider that might have a better price point?
I have not looked into that, primarily because we know that the matching product exists.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Actually, I have one. Is it reasonable to assume that there's a good chance that they could get some kind of a grant that could make up the difference between asphalt shingles and the metal shingles? Or is that a reasonable question to ask?
It is a reasonable question to ask. What I could say generally is that the capital grant applications that we process at Heritage Montgomery, they range, sometimes $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 up to $100,000, which is the maximum. Montgomery County always, we are very competitive when it comes to these grant funding rounds, but every heritage area within the state is competing for the same, bigger pot of money at the state level. So when we are reviewing the applications within our heritage area, we put forward, for recommended funding, those cases that we think are the most competitive, that best meet the needs of the heritage area, and that have the best chance of success and have kind of the best, most clearly defined scope. That's kind of in general what you look for in a successful grant application. Every year we do receive funding. Typically the ones that we recommend for funding, the top 2 or 3 receive that funding even in competitive years. If they do not, we recommend they come back again for the next year to compete again. And then more often than not, those applications are, they successfully obtain the grant. That's the best I can do, is sort of describe to you how the process works. I couldn't speak to how
Very
they
helpful.
would fare.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? If not, we have some representatives on that will present remotely. And the names I have here are Pramod KC and Prajwal Regni. And I apologize if I did not pronounce your names correctly, but you will have 7 minutes to do your presentation. And after that, we will ask questions and then do give you our best advice. So, welcome.
Good evening, Chair Sharon, and all the commissioner. Can you hear me properly?
Yes,
Can you
yes,
all
we
hear
can.
me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
Thank
can.
you.
Thank you. And good to see you all again. So we keep coming back to you because we have a lot of projects going on, one step at a time. So now we are here for roof replacement. So we're trying to find out some alternative method because the existing roofing materials, they were kind of like shortage when COVID hit us, and then now they are available, but they are overpricey. So I will walk you through in my short presentation. So this is the outline of my presentation. I'll discuss briefly about the current roofing material, why we need a roof replacement immediately. So what are we proposing, and cost comparison between the in-kind and the best alternative in the market, and what is the impact of this project cost to a non-profit organization like NECC, and then I conclude with a statement. So the current roofing condition we have is partially it is standing seam and partially is metal shingles. So I would say 50-50. And because of inadequate maintenance by the previous owner, the life of the shingles and the life of standing seam has almost gone. So you will see a leaking roof from various spots. And the previous owner kind of for the remedial action, they keep on adding layers of asphalt of some bituminous materials, which kind of totally destroyed the aesthetic of the Victorian roofing material. And now, if you look at it from the distance, you will not distinguish between whether that is a Victorian historical Victorian shingles or it's just like some asphalt shingle. And because of that, our renovation work that we did in last 2 years is kind of damaging. So why we need this roof replacement urgently? As you know, we came 2 years ago for some renovation work. So we spent already more than 50,000 in these 2 years just to renovate some interiors, wall, door, windows of the historical building. And now, because of this ongoing leak, the ceiling in 2 of our rooms and a bathroom are kind of falling apart. So we proposed this project 2 years ago, and because of the chain supply shortage and some funding issues, so we had to put this project on hold. And now we have some emergency fund that we collected from the donors. So we're trying to utilize. It's not a huge sum of money, but we have some, so that we're trying to utilize that money, to repair our roof. And if this roof is not done now, all the work that we did over the years will be at risk. And also, if you look at probably Dan, HVC staff went. I know he went inside the roof or inside the building and look it from inside out. All the buttons are kind of rotten. So I'm doubtful, very doubtful, or I'm very confident that if we don't fix it now, the roof will be at risk. Structurally, it will be failing. And then keeping in view for the upcoming winter, so we have to get this done. And also, this property, because the roof repair and the cost of roof is so high, we are having very hard time finding an insurance agency who can insure our property. So this is the picture. This is the recent picture of our property. The HPC staff said the outbuildings were demolished. We demolished 2 outbuildings, and the one we have kept it. So we are using that as a storage. So this is the current roof picture. As you can see, this is partly standing seam and partly metal shingles. And you see all the layers of asphalt are everywhere. You can barely distinguish either that is a asphalt shingle or a metal shingles. And these are the damages caused by leaking roof. So these were the work that we did in 2022, the renovation work. So we are proposing, actually, in our report, we are proposing 2 different materials. The HPC staff only discussed about architectural shingle. So we are proposing architectural shingle with about 50 years warranty, and the other one is 26 gauge inch-and-a-half standing seam roof throughout the roof. So this inch-and-a-half standing seam we already have partially on that roof, so we're just trying to continue 100% with the standing seam. And the cost of that will be around $45,000 for material and labor, and additional about $7,000 if we install the snow guards. And this doesn't include if there is any unseen sub-roof or batten that we need to replace. So that will be another additional cost. And since last 2 years, I've been in touch with the HPC staff trying to find out the matching material in the market. And then in 2022 or 2021, HPC staff recommended me a material called Berry's Victorian shingles. So this company, they are based out of Texas. I called the marketing manager, Ruben Pena, maybe more than 10 times to find out if they can come and install, but they don't come here and install. They will only supply us the material, and we have to find a local contractor to get that installed. And with the local contractors' commission and all that, so project cost will be enormously high. So the quote that I have from Central Roofing is about $80,000 just for materials and labor. And if we need a snow guard, definitely we need a snow guard. So that's another $9,000 on top of that. And this doesn't include any replacement for the subroof material. And these materials are not locally available, so we have to either order in excess amount or order a certain portion and then wait for another delivery. So it will be a very time-consuming project. So the in-kind and the best alternative material we have is, so in-kind material will cost about $100,000 easily, $100,000 easily, and these must be imported from another state, and the manufacturer doesn't provide the installation, so we have to find the local installer. And the best alternative material will cost around $60,000, which is a standing metal seam or the architectural shingle, so which will cost around $60,000. So there's a difference of $40,000 there, and which is easily available in the market, and we can get it done with no time. So these are the some of the quotes that I received. So these are only two of many that I have. The left one is standing seam, which is which I received in 2021. I checked the price. They said they are still okay with the same price. So it's $45,000 for material only, material plus labor. And the right one is for the Berry's metal shingles. So this is they will bring the material from Texas and they will install it for $80,000. And there are some hidden costs like snow guards, subroof. Subroof are $7 per linear feet. So I assume the project cost will be over $100,000 easily. And so we are running in some severe financial hardship. We are already in deficit of $105,000. So we have collected a promissory note from our community members, which are payable. So, and if we have to do the roofing project, which is $100,000, then that will push us to another, very far on the negative side. So, for a nonprofit organization which runs on a donation dollars, this roof replacement will be very expensive. Because we cannot run our daily basis projects like there are some other outstanding projects that, for example, Sunday school. We've been running our Sunday school in Montgomery County's public school, so we are renting their hall to run our school. So these small projects that if we have some, we can save some money from the roofing. We can utilize that money to renovate the barn and run the school there, and then because we have some permitting issues, permitting hurdles from the county, so we cannot run our regular temple day-to-day activities. So which is kind of like we cannot have so many people in the temple because of our zoning restrictions. So that is also one of the factor that we're not able to generate enough fund. And so we are applying for a heritage fund from the Maryland Preservation, which is $10,000. But this is still, we are still working on it. Even if we have that grant, we'll still need another $30,000 to cover the difference between metal shingles and the proposed material. And back in 2021, October, I kind of consulted with HPC staff to check if there is any grant available for us to renovate the roofing projects or any other projects. But at that time, unfortunately, no grant was available for the property like us. So, after that, we never looked for any avenues to find grants. So NECC right now is not generating enough revenue and donation due to county citation for conducting programs that involves a larger crowd. So we are not doing any kind of big mass oriented programs, that pays that contributes or that donates to temple. So in past few years, we are running in loss. The temple visitors has decreased because we don't have any amenities. We don't have any facilities we cannot provide because our renovation work is going at a slow and steady pace. And if we spend $100,000 just for roof replacement, it will harshly impact NECC's other projects like barn renovation and new community center. So I'm not sure, but I've seen a property in 20,330 Frederick Road. That is also a historical building. That building, I believe that was from 19th century, and then that has asphalt shingle. I know if that was the original roofing that they had, but this is right close to our property, so we looked at it. And our request is, let us, because right now the roof is in such a poor condition that it is not adding any beauty to this historical property. So let us find an alternative roofing material that will enhance the beauty and that will match the color match the historical metal shingles. So we'll find the exact match for current roof, and I'm 100% confident that will be even more aesthetic or more will beautify the historical building. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm open for the questions if you have any.
Any questions?
Can I stop sharing, Rebecca?
I'm sorry?
Sure.
Can I stop sharing?
Yes, can you just click the share button again that you see in your toolbar, and that should turn it off?
I did.
That worked. Thank you.
Commissioner Pelletier.
Thank you. I didn't see any pricing for the asphalt shingles. You showed the metal roof and the metal shingles, but can you give us an idea of what the asphalt, was it?
Yeah.
I saw a range.
25-ish?
28-ish?
Yeah. 25, 20.
Right, 28 to 45, right.
But then the metal was 45. Can you go back and show, like, I wasn't clear on the difference between the price of the asphalt shingles and the metal roofing.
I'll share it in my window again.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, it's okay, sir. There it is. Yeah, we kind of like contacted more than 10 contractors who does similar, and most of them they say we don't do metal shingles. So all they did send me a quote for asphalt shingles. So based on the material, so some of them are 25 years, some of them are 40 years warranty, some of them are 50-year warranty. So the price ranges between 28,000 to 45,000.
Okay, so based on this, the cost of the architectural shingles, depending on what grade you get, I guess, is very similar to the standing seam, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted some
Yeah.
clarity there. Okay,
But-
thank you.
But like I said, this doesn't include any subroof repair or subroof replacement. So this is just a cost of metal.
Right,
Right.
but you'll have those costs regardless of what kind of roofing you put down. whatever surprises they find, that will be additional regardless of what material you pick. So I just wanted to get a sense of the price of the asphalt, but it just didn't seem that different from the metal. So, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Pramod? Commissioner Galway.
Hi, it's Commissioner Galway. Talk to us a little bit about the snow guards. I'm a little confused because other than maybe the asphalt option, I would think you'd either need them or not need them with either the standing seam or the metal shingle. And given the slope of these roofs where the existing metal shingle is, are you in a situation where you think you need them, or have you made that determination?
Thank you, Commissioner Gowdy. Yeah, so this is optional. So we are told that these are optional. So so I think these are dependent on the slope of the roof. So some slope might need, some may not, because the slope that wrap around the patio, they are very flat slope. So it depends. So probably the main gables, they will need some. So these are optional if we need them, but that's only like $9,000 on the metal singles. The cost to install the ice guard.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Commissioner Haynes?
Thank you. Could you go back to the metal shingle quote?
Can you see my screen, Commissioner Haynes?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, let me share again.
Okay.
Okay, the right one is metal singles.
Can you zoom in on the metal shingle quote?
Is it enough?
Yeah, so under the description, it says that it is including the steel shingles and the standing seam roof on the main house wraparound porch. So that's 80,000 includes the steel shingles and the standing seam roof. And if you add up your asphalt shingle and your separate standing seam quote, that's 90K and this is 80K. So this is actually cheaper.
No,
Like 10 grand.
this is
The
I'm sorry. So
description
this
says
is
it
for metal singles.
It says it, the fourth line down, install Barrington 24-gauge standing seam roof on the main house wraparound porch, and installed 24-gauge shingles on the main house and small rear house. So that, I take this to understand the 80,000 includes both the shingles and the standing seam roof.
For the main building, yes.
And if you compare that to your other two quotes, 45 for the asphalt shingle and 45 for the standing seam, that's 90K.
Yeah.
So what am I missing here?
I think it's either.
So no, these are separate quotes. We can go with either. So our proposal is to go entirely with the standing seam, which is 45,000.
For the main roof
Either
and
go
the,
with
and the porch for all?
Yeah, and the porch.
I see,
Right. Yeah.
I see.
And the other option we have is asphalt single, which ranges between 28 to 45.
Any other questions? Commissioner Burdett?
When you spoke with Barrage, I understand they don't do the installation. They're just a supply company. Did they give you a recommendation for a local company to install their product?
Unfortunately, no. So they said we don't have any local contractors who can install our product. They gave me some AB roofing, which is like they don't sell their products, but the Ruben Pena is a manager there, so he asked me to check with them. They may have some metal singles, but there was no luck with those two companies.
And the existing metal shingles are not salvageable?
No, so they are I think 90% of them are you can salvage them. So if you try to take them apart, it will just break from where they're stapled.
And, no, well, I guess that's all the questions I have before.
Any other questions? One more. Commissioner Pelletier.
Thank you. When you talk to Barrage, what is the lead time on their metal shingles as opposed to I know the metal roofing is probably pretty easy to get locally. Do they give you a delivery time?
So I checked with him during the COVID time, and he said like I can't do anything within 6 months. So that time, so now maybe he probably can, give me a month or 2 months, but I had to check with him. So last time I spoke to him was like 3-4 months ago. So, but I didn't check him that time ago when he can supply me. But materials, he said like, we don't have that ready, so they have to fabricate it, like as we staff just said. So they have to fabricate it and ship it to us. Might be a few months.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? If not, thank you. We will now do our deliberation and give you what we think about this project. And you know the drill. You've been here before. First of all, I just want to say how much we appreciate what you're doing here. And we are doing everything we can to try to work with you to both help your project and to preserve this structure. So whatever we say is, we'll try to do both, okay? Would anyone like to kick this off and start off the deliberation?
I will.
Commissioner Burdett.
This is a very difficult preliminary. But it's unfortunate because when you're dealing with a structure with any structure with a roof that's as in bad a shape as this one is, you never do interior work until the roof is fixed. And unfortunately, you went ahead and did interior work with a flawed roof. And I think you really need to look at the underlayment and get a good cost estimate for it, because that's going to be as important as anything else. I mean, you've got a lot of something underneath that existing roof that's got to be replaced, and it's probably just plywood, and what you're going to be putting back is plywood with a waterproof membrane, possibly fireproofing or insulation underneath it. And that's a cost that's not really explained in your estimates. When you guys took on this project, you knew you were dealing with a historic site, and that came with considerable repairs and cost. There are so few buildings, rural residential homes left with the original shingles, metal shingles, because they were once very common, and there are very few of them left. And it's a shame to lose another one at all, because they really are very distinctive and they're very beautiful when they're new and they're shiny on the roof, and that there is a company in this country, Barrage, that has a very good reputation for making these shingles. And, once they're installed, they last a very long time, 75 years. Your asphalt shingles aren't going to last that long. Your asphalt shingles will probably need to be replaced in 15 to 20 years. Now, what you need to do, I would say that any replacement is going to be metal. It's either going to be a mix of the standing seam or the shingles, or it's going to be entirely standing seam. I don't think taking it all the way down to asphalt is at all appropriate on this property, on this building. I think you need to evaluate the number of snow guards you use. Don't be sold on using a lot of them, because you don't need them. You only need them over the entrances to the building, simply because a heavy snow load, an ice load, will rip them off the building. And you have to maintain that roof. You have to get people up there to to get that snow off if you don't have a heating system to melt it off. So the idea is you minimize where you've put them so that you can only deal with that area and you can protect people in that area, and you don't bother with the rest of the roof. You let the snow slide off, because otherwise you will destroy your roof the first nasty icy storm, heavy snowstorm with ice that comes through. And the snow guards on the flatter roofs, they will hold the snow back. On a steeper roof, they will not. So be mindful and really think about where those snow guards are going to be used, and don't overdo it. But right now, my first choice would be the shingles, and the mix of the shingles and the standing seam to replicate what's there. And we'll just have to see if a full standing seam roof would be the second choice. Thank you.
Commissioner Pelletier?
Thanks. Yeah, this is a really tough call, because I feel your pain about the price of the roofing and you need to do it now. So often these come before us and we don't know what the original roof was. You know, I think a lot of times we approve the architectural shingles because whatever is up there wasn't the original roof material in the first place. So it's kind of sad in this case, because we know that there's metal shingles and metal roofing up there, and you know, if we had our druthers, of course we would want you to replace it in kind. I understand you're kind of in a hurry. I could support, like Commissioner Burdett was saying, I think I could probably support a metal roof, like a full metal roof, standing seam metal roof. The asphalt shingles, I can't get behind it. I mean, I know you want to do this quickly and you don't have a lot of money, but I think maybe a compromise between the two, but the metal roofing is what it has now, and I could be persuaded to go with a full metal roof, but I really would love to see those shingles go back up. But I know that doesn't help you, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I'm a little torn too, because I mean, obviously we needed to get a new roof on there, and as my colleagues have said, it's so rare to have an original roof on a building, and especially I do not recall. Could be wrong. I've been on this commission since 2017, I think, and I don't recall ever seeing a metal shingle roof come before us. You're going to correct me, right?
Yep. Yes, I am, Chair. We had one in Kensington that came in. It was damaged when a tree fell on it. And Barrage quoted the owner of that property an 18-month lead time to get shingles.
Oh, okay.
So in that instance, acknowledging the delay in materials, the HPC authorized a slate roof as a replacement for those Victorian shingles. So that's the one instance that I can remember in my 7 years.
I remember
7 years.
I remember
here.
the shingle. I remember the what did you say, that slate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember this. Okay. Well, I think I would go with my colleagues that the preference would be to have the metal shingles, but it's just, is there any way that the roof could be protected temporarily? I'm not that familiar with it. I mean, a tarp is very, very temporary.
That's the way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the only way in the interim to ensure that water doesn't get in.
Do we know what the slope of the roof is, of where we'd have this?
It varies. I mean, the area where there's metal shingles, it's pretty steeply pitched. And then it's a much lower pitch for the standing seam, which is mostly on the porch roof, and there's a section of the roof where the gable lowers its pitch, and it transitions from shingle to standing seam.
I wouldn't be surprised, this is Commissioner Galway, if you could use a rubber membrane like you would for a freeze product underneath an asphalt, just on a temporary basis. Because once that sticks, it is stuck. And you could protect any sort of wood underlayment that might be there, or even just, well, I don't know that you want to go over the existing shingles. That's something you'd have to look at, but I wouldn't be surprised if, that would be a better alternative than just a tarp. That might get you a season or so, while you're ordering the material. It's worth thinking about.
But would the concern be that the asphalt would never be taken off?
Maybe we could make it conditional.
Make it condition? Because, I mean, are you talking about,
I'm not talking about the shingle itself, just the underlayment, the
Yeah.
rubberized adhesive underlayment that would typically be used for an asphalt roof.
oh, and not,
And not put the asphalt
Not
shingles
put the
on?
asphalt
Okay,
on,
yeah.
yes.
oh, just put the
Yes.
membrane?
Yes, just a membrane.
Because the membrane's got to go down.
Which you'd have to do
Anyway.
anyway, right?
Anyway,
Right.
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
standing
Yep.
seam.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing, it may not mean a lot to you, but your next generation and the next generation after that probably would really appreciate having a good roof that they don't have to replace. I don't know if that means anything, but I think we and staff hopefully can work with you to come up with some kind of a solution here that will take care of the problem with the roof and get something that you'll be happy with and that we'll be happy with, or some kind of a compromise that we're probably not either of us really super happy with, but something that will work. So I hope that's been helpful to you.
It is. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else before we move on?
Yeah.
Commissioner
I would
Haynes.
just like briefly, that you work with staff to really exhaust potential grant monies, grant funds, this heritage area grant, if that's a possibility. And, we're really talking a delta of 40 to 50,000, between the metal shingles and standing seam versus asphalt, if I heard your math correctly. And that seems like, the underlayment and the sheathing being equal, to see if financially we can exhaust all those possibilities. I like the idea, a membrane roof. It could be an asphalt membrane, not necessarily a rubber membrane, which a bituminous membrane, which will be less expensive, very inexpensive residential roofing material that will certainly get you a number of years, and would probably not increase the cost all that much.
Nope, no question, comment.
Comment. Oh, how do I make this a comment?
Question's fine.
All right, you talked about $10,000 grant. Where does that number come from? It didn't sound like you had necessarily a limitation on how much you could apply. I mean, it was $100,000, I think was the maximum, but where does that $10,000 number that you have in your presentation come from?
No, this is, thank you. Yeah, this is a Maryland Heritage Grant. I think it is like Maryland Preservation, Heritage Preservation or something. So my colleague, he's working on it. So the amount that we can apply for is 10,000. So I will dig into this, and if needed, then I'll bring it up. So if Prozul, do you have any idea about that?
Hi, good evening again. Thank you, Commissioner, for all the comments and feedback. So for the grant application, we have a team of people that are trying to navigate this complicated process. So if the SBC staff could help us to get prepare a really good grant application that probably will likely get the positive outcome. And also, when you see the Heritage Fund, we see the number 10,000 grant is the maximum. Maybe we need to further explore that with HPC staff. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
They should, yes, the applicant should speak to the HP staff at length about the grant process and what they're eligible for, that it could be considerably more money which could make us all very happy about what you could afford to put on that roof, and even with an interim roof between, because I would just like to have you imagine what that roof would look like with some very shiny metal shingles. It sparkles in the sun. It would be a tremendous effect for your facility in the future. That's my sales pitch.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, thank you so much. We're looking forward to continuing working with you. This is a wonderful project, and we're excited about it, and we just hope everything goes well for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next project is preliminary consultation B, 2B at 9832 Capitol View Avenue in Silver Spring. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is. As I launch into the staff report, I want to sort of acknowledge that all of these photos are from winter a year ago. As we'll discuss later, the house at 9838 is currently under construction. So the site is an active construction site, so it doesn't photograph too well at this point. So 9832 Capitol View Avenue is undeveloped lot 13 in the Capitol View Park subdivision. It's identified as a spatial resource to the Capitol View Park Historic District. And these are unimproved parcels of land which visually and aesthetically contribute to the setting of the historic district and which can be regarded as extensions of the environmental setting of the significant historic houses. And this is reviewed under Chapter 24A, the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, and the approved and adopted master plan amendment for the Capitol View Park Historic District. So again, this is the site. Just note the crosswalk and curb here and bus shelter, which we'll discuss a little bit later. This is the historic Case House, Farmer Brown House. I think it has 3 or 4 other names as well. This is the significant historic resource that the 2 lots are spatial resources for. It actually predates the platting of Capitol View Park. This is looking towards the area where the proposed house is planned. This is looking up from the site back towards Capitol View Avenue. This lot slopes down towards the railroad tracks at the other end. And the lot actually goes all the way from the right-of-way through, this line is wrong in our GIS system. So again, this is the Farmer Brown or Case House, the one that predates the platting, and then this is the location that we're talking about now. So the HPC held a preliminary consultation for this property and its neighbor, which is 9838 Capitol View Avenue, on February 2nd, 2022. The HPC acknowledged that the placement of the house for 9838 was dictated by several site-specific factors, including an access easement to the property at 9834, and the fact that that site will provide access to 9832 subject lot. And the HPC was uniform in finding the proposed house at 9832 was too far from the right-of-way and that its configuration with an attached garage projecting from the house mass was incompatible with the character of the district. And many commissioners found that the proposed side setbacks to be too small to be compatible with the character of the district and recommended the applicant narrow the house design before submitting for a HOP. So this was the design from February 2022. You can see the garage projects out of the front and it's side loading with the mass of the house behind. The placement, this is the 2022, or it's 2022 proposed site plan, where the house is set back a significant distance from the street with the massing of the house behind the garage. So the HPC approved a HOP for the proposed house at 9838 Capitol View in September of 2022. It's under construction now. And the HPC found that a very lenient review was warranted because of the house's limited visibility from the right-of-way due to both the distance from the street and the drop in grade. That decision was appealed, and the Board of Appeals affirmed the HPC's approval. So this is the revised site plan. In this instance, the garage was flipped in the house plan, so now that it's at the rear, and the house is moved to a much closer setback to the street, we'll see the previously submitted streetscape study shortly. So it's only set back 29 feet 10 inches from the right-of-way. And you see the bus shelter and the section of sidewalk here covers almost the entire frontage of the property. So we'll just walk you through the elevations. It's the front, the right side elevation, the left side elevation, and the rear. So this was submitted as part of the 2022 prelim, and we wanted to see both setbacks from the street, but also how the elevation would appear as from grade. You see 9832 is much, much lower because the change in grade basically drops the whole first floor below street level. Now, 9832 is going to be closer to the street, so that will raise the grade a little bit more, and staff thinks that a revised streetscape study is warranted as part of the HOP application. We'll talk about that later. And I'm sorry, this gets a little wordy, but I think it'll help, and we can revisit anything you'd like. Site constraints limit the house placement and site access because Lot 13 cannot accommodate access directly from Capitol View Avenue. Staff finds that the new house location and garage placement and orientation are consistent with the HPC's feedback from the February 2022 prelim. Staff finds the height and limited side setback, which is 7 feet 9 inches to the neighbor on the south, threatened to overwhelm the house at 9830 Capitol View Avenue. Staff finds that the proposed materials are generally acceptable for new construction and additions in the Capitol View Park Historic District, but their application and the overall design approach is potentially incompatible. Staff is concerned that the design embellishments will create an overall appearance that is too flat to be compatible with the surrounding districts. We see this frequently with substitute materials, particularly like hardy shake or hardy shingles, and then the other embellishments, depending on their dimensions, can create a very flat profile. Staff finds that the shingle siding on only 2 elevations is incompatible with treatments on historic buildings, and a revised design that includes a consistent finish on all 4 elevations should be required for an approved HOP. Staff finds the house appears too massive and too tall, rendering it potentially incompatible with the streetscape and the overall district. So staff recommends several changes, including lowering the height and width of the house, breaking up the facade to reduce its apparent mass. I'm not an architect, but we've seen utilizing a double gable like on 9905 Capitol View Avenue, or reorienting the design to create a gable L form, which is something we worked through for the infill construction at 10201 Menlo Avenue in the past. So staff requests the HPC feedback on several factors, including the compatibility of the height and massing of the proposed house, the compatibility of the design, including a critique of the use and application of certain materials, the overall compatibility of the materials selected, any concerns or issues regarding the tree removal and replacement, materials for the parking pad and driveway, and any other recommended revisions. Staff also identified a number of additional information that should be submitted with either a HOP or an additional preliminary consultation as the HPC determines. That includes an updated HOP application form, measurement showing the building height from the first floor to the top of the principal ridge on all elevations, full finish and material specifications, an updated streetscape study that reflects the new house placement, an updated tree removal plan or resubmission of the original if there are no changes, an updated site plan that shows the new building and setbacks from each wall plane and all conforming property lines, and a landscape plan that includes tree replanting on site. Again, this is a preliminary list. The HPC should feel free to add to it, and this should not be considered complete. And I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Pelletier?
Thank you. Are these setbacks that are on here, maybe you don't know, but are they, like, do they meet zoning? The 7.9 and the 29.10, is there any, what do I want to say, like front yard setback that requires them to align with adjacent houses, that kind of stuff?
So I believe under zoning, the minimum setback is 25 feet. So for the minimum front setback is 25 feet. So they're exceeding that. You can see their porch
Yeah.
actually aligns with that front setback. I believe the side setback requirement is 7 feet.
Really? Okay. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for staff? If not, I would welcome the the name I have is Michael Winfield. If you could come forward and if you could sit in front of a microphone and turn the microphone on and give us your name for the record, and you'll have 7 minutes to do a presentation.
Good evening. My name is Michael Winfield, for the record. So last time we were here, we took everybody's comments and thoughts into consideration. We moved the house forward closer to the street, which puts us closer to a bus stop, which is a little inconvenient for somebody living there, but that's the give and take of everything. One of the comments that I hear over and over is the massing and the sizing of this house. Actual living square feet of this house is 3,108. The original Farmer Brown house that we refer to constantly is actually larger than this. It's a more massive house than this, which is right beside it. So to address the massing issue, we are not the biggest house in the neighborhood. We're not the smallest, but we're not the biggest either. Some of the roof issues, for the median roof height, we're actually 10% below what the code is for Montgomery County. We've pushed that down multiple times to address that issue. So those are some things we think that we have covered for you guys. As far as the trees, we have met with an arborist out there to save what we can save. I worked with Mr. Faulkner, the neighbor at 9830, with what he was concerned about, so we could address his concerns with the trees. I also worked with the neighbor on the other side at 9900. Worked with him with trees that he was concerned about and tried to save everything between the two neighbors. As far as the trees, sliding it forward goes into the most forested area of the lot. So there's another give and take. We tried to stay back away from the trees. We've now pushed up into a little bit more of the trees. However, because we have 29 feet there, we were able to save a lot of the trees and shrubs on the front to keep some of the forestry of the neighborhood, and also, again, to screen the bus stop that was put in front of this house. As far as the other things that staff mentioned, the materials and things like that, that's very easy to address. We have no problem readdressing the siding and stuff of the house to make it more uniform. A lot of the things that we also just went over were addressed at the Board of Appeals meeting for sizes of houses and all of that in the neighborhood, and was deemed to be fine for the last conversation. So moving forward, we've put together a draft, a drawing of everybody's comments, and this is what we've come up with. Obviously willing to hear commissioners' recommendations on how to get this to move forward.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Burdett.
This house is so close to the bus stop. Why did you put the front porch facing the street as opposed to turning it to the right? And
It's very
making
interesting. I actually had it to the right, and I was told to change it to the front. So we actually started with it to the side, and through comments, we ended up with it back on the front.
I just lost it. It just seems to me like a side-loading house, like a Charleston, South Carolina house, might be a better.
We started there, ma'am,
Yeah.
and we ended up here with comments.
Well, that was my question.
Anyone else? Commissioner Pelletier.
I should know this because I remember this when it came the first time, but what did we tell you about moving it closer to the street? Like,
It was requested that, strongly requested that we move it closer to the street to be more in line with the existing houses.
okay, that's my question, because it's not aligning based on your site plan. Is your site plan accurate?
It does align, it pretty much aligns with the other houses on Capitol View. I think we might be back a little bit further. But again, we have this bus stop to deal with that is,
Right,
Can be a
that's my
little unsightly at
question.
times.
I guess my question is that the presentation doesn't, can you go back to the site plan, Dan? I couldn't tell, it looks from the site plan like you're considerably forward of the house, the neighboring house at 9830, but you're saying that you actually, like the face of the front aligns with that house and the house on the other side?
the best I could tell, those houses all were fairly straight line down between the existing and ours.
Is that your intent? To
That's-
align the?
That's what we were asked to do, yes.
Okay, so it doesn't really show that.
Commissioner Pelletier, just if you look immediately following the staff report are the synthesized comments from the preliminary consultation as part of your commissioner's packet. So
looking.
the HPC and
Oh, here.
I think in partially in response to some other testimony, encouraged the applicant to, they acknowledged that 9838 could not match the street front presence of the other houses, but that the house at 9832 could align with the neighboring properties, and that the streetscape study, let me find where that was, sorry. Again, staff's recommending that that be updated, but you can see it's somewhat faint, but the houses here are just sort of within that 25-foot. And then to the north of the house, they're, again, within a couple of feet of one another, but the setbacks are really minimal along this whole side of Capitol View
Okay,
Avenue.
that's my question is, does it create, like, is it consistent with the houses on either side? Because you couldn't really tell from the.
It looks
from
to
the
be,
other
and
side
again,
plan.
again, staff is recommending that a revised streetscape study be
Okay.
further submitted, but this appears to align with the other houses.
Okay, that's fine. I just couldn't tell. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner Nasser?
Commissioner, can you go back to the site plan, Dan? I just want to refresh my memory. One of the reasons we asked to move the house to the front was because the garage was in front of the house before, in the previous proposal. And just to bring the garage behind the house, that was one of the reasons, correct?
And yes, and the justification was to reinforce the existing settlement pattern, to sort
Got
of
it.
make sure that the house had the same kind of street front presence as its neighbors.
All right.
And again, because the access easement here
Right.
would not have allowed for this house to come forward, the HPC understood that,
Right.
and that's why this house is currently under construction, because the HPC acknowledged that as far back as that was, there was going to be less impact on the character of the surrounding district, whereas this one would be more impactful because it would be more visible.
Correct, thank you.
Commissioner Dominiani?
Hi, just a brief question on the driveway and parking pad material. The driveway existing going to the historic home appears to be gravel, and the driveways leading to these new homes will be what material?
It will be paved. I believe asphalt was the approved material.
Okay, great, thanks.
I have one question. Is the square footage of this house similar or identical to the one that's under construction?
They're very similar, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? If not, Commissioner Haynes? You have your mic on? Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. We will start a deliberation, give you our feedback on this project. Anyone want to kick off? What's that? Well, I'll actually start this off. I actually think the suggestions of staff are good. I think it's, while this house, as you say, is virtually the same size as the one that's being constructed, it seems, just looking at the streetscape, that this will be much larger because of where, not larger in size, but in appearance, compared with the other one. And I think, I don't know that I'm necessarily have a problem with how large it is, but I think some of the materials, I think that's one of the suggestions of staff, to be a little bit more careful with some of the materials would be advantaged as well. Anyone else? Commissioner Haynes?
I would concur with the previous comments. If I understand the section of the house, you're doing a trust system with I forget what they call it, but with an extra space up in the attic. So you have a second floor ceiling height, a standard height, and then a trussed roof system. Is there a way to still be able to utilize the truss, but bring the soffit line down even a foot? I know that will shape the second floor ceilings of rooms, but I think I scaled the drawings, and from the grade off the elevation drawing, I was about almost 32 feet from grade to the ridge, which is within the code. But I think the massing could be brought down if you were willing to lower the soffit line, allow some shaping of the second floor rooms with the lowering of the roof structure. And I think that would help the concerns of massing. Yes, if you can reduce the width, great. Probably a little bit less concerned about that than maybe the overall roof height. I do think bringing it forward to the front setback is consistent with the neighborhood, consistent with the streetscape. I'm sure you can landscape the front yard and mitigate the bus stop and the front porch. I'm okay with the front porch facing the front, as that's what is consistent in the neighborhood and along Capitol View. I do think you should be consistent with material around the four sides, so I would really encourage shingles to wrap around, shingle siding to wrap around all four sides, not just two. That's kind of odd. So I other than the massing, I think it's much improved, and I think getting the garage off the street and to the back is an improvement. If you can, again, not have as many steps in the gables on the front elevation. I'm looking at page 10 of 20 on the proposal. Actually, there it looks like the main roof and the two smaller gables are in the same plane, but in the latest proposal, they're offset. And yeah, the front there, the two bay gables are offset. Maybe the one on the right is not a pitched roof, but just maybe a shed roof. So, again, there's a lot of, I know we want some dimension on the facade, but at the same time, having some restraint also goes a long way. And it's consistent with the other homes in the neighborhood, which are very simply massed homes. There's not a lot of ins and outs and roof lines. So if that could be cleaned up, I think that would help. So just a few things there.
Thank you.
Else? Commissioner Burdett.
Now, I agree it's better to pull it forward towards the street. That's fine. I think you compared this house to the historic property, which was a farmhouse on a large lot. And houses back then were large because they usually had a lot of people living in them. I don't think it's quite right to compare this house to that house. I think you need to compare it to its neighbors. And-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, and this is a very large house compared to the other ones up and down the street. And I understand you're maxing this out for maximum profit. I understand that. But, you know, with the HPC, there are a lot of districts and a lot of properties across the county that we review hops for. Most of our hops come from two areas, Tacoma Park and Chevy Chase. And Chevy Chase is one of the most expensive areas in the county. And it has lovely homes. They're not necessarily big homes, or at least the original homes weren't. And a lot of them were very successfully designed, so from the street, they actually don't look that big, not like this. And I think it's worth your while to look at those houses and see how clever they were, the original architects were, at minimizing the front facades. Now, behind that, we can confirm that there's some very, very large additions back behind those front facades, or the original house, because they've come through us. But from the street, you don't see that. What you see in many cases is something that if you didn't have that gable roof on your house, on this house, they would be about the same height. And it's by being a lot more clever with a roof slope and building within it. Because frankly, your attic isn't doing anything. It's just adding height that is making this going to stick up along the street. You have 10'2" on the ground floor, or you have 10'2" from the first floor to the second floor, and that's pretty high.
That's a 9-foot ceiling.
9-foot
After you take off
ceiling.
the floor joist, which is a typical.
Yeah. And I know that's appropriate for the cost of this house, but again, it's adding extra height to this house. So I personally find this house overscale, and it does not blend in with its neighbors. It even is, because of the slope, it's coming up much higher than the first house that you guys developed. And frankly, it's just the lot's too small to handle that. It's going to look like the McMansion that it is right there. So I would suggest you go back to the drawing board and take a long walk through Chevy Chase and see how well some of those houses, as big as they are and as expensive as they are actually from the street facade. They don't crowd their site or their neighbors, especially the craftsman homes that are over there. Those would be excellent examples of how you can make a large house not appear to be as large as it actually is. Thank you.
Commissioner Pelletier.
Thank you. I was just looking at the front facade, and I think, looking at the streetscape, I think my only objection to the house is that it's higher. It's taller than the other houses. I mean, there's big lots there, the ones, like when you look at the study, going from left to right, there's teeny houses with these enormous lots on one side, and then teeny houses on smaller lots on the other side. And I keep wishing that you could break down the big gable a little bit, just to, like I was looking at the section, is there anything up there, or is it all attic space? Do you have like
attic
air
space.
handlers or something, or it's just
If it
storage?
was, there may be an air handler up there in the end of the day, but
Okay, so it's not living space necessarily.
no.
I just keep wondering if you could, like, even I was just looking at the back elevation with the big gable and then the smaller gable. It's just a nice, simple sort of breaking down of the massing. And I wish you could do that a little bit more on the front. I'm not sure how. Like, I was thinking maybe you could turn the gable so it slopes back and put the gable on the, on the driveway side. I'm not really sure, but I like some of the breaking down of the massing with the gables in the front, the bays. But I just wish the massive part of the big part of the house, if you could mess with the roof a little bit and maybe try and visually just sort of set it down a little bit. I mean, I have a 9-foot ceiling in my house. I love it. I think if you're doing a new house this size, I mean, I think, it's a nice design. I like the plans and everything. I just wish it could, and I understand, like it's not economically viable or like people just don't do little houses these days, and I get that. But I just wish it could look a little like you could sort of put it on a diet or something so that the massing it just doesn't pop up quite as much as it does now. And I think if there's nothing necessarily up in the roof, then you have some opportunities to mess with that part of it. But the rest of it, I agree with the materiality, I think doing it on all four sides and bringing it up, as long as it's in line with the other houses on the street. I was thinking it was sticking out more based on the plan, but if it's lining up, I think that's perfectly fine. So I just would like to see a reduction, just a visual reduction in the massing, if you can, like Karen was saying, do some tricks on the front to sort of pull that down. But otherwise, I don't have a big problem with it. I think it's a nice house.
Anyone else? Commissioner Galway.
Commissioner Galway, just a couple of questions. One, I do agree that flipping the garage gives us a better appearance from the street. I think that's the right thing to go, or right way to go. I too think that just the front view, primarily the front view and the massing. When you mentioned about the other home, the other home being larger square footage, it's not a question in my mind about square footage. It's really a question of massing, meaning what does that block look like as you drive by? And I would say make darn sure. And the one drawing, I think page 151 of 191, it does look like the house with that 29-foot dimension is pulled out closer to the road than the house to the left. And I would say you do not want to do that. You want to make sure that it's in line. And so I don't know, one of the graphics represents, it looks like it's in line, the older version. And then on that page, 151, it looks like it's actually a little more proud and closer to the road. And I would say you don't want to do that. And so I guess I would agree that if you could bring down that front gable, the roof a bit to just sort of lower the height. I looked at it in section and I thought maybe you could even drop the entire house because the grade's dropping the way that it is, but I don't know what the relationship is between the front porch and the street. So, I was thinking maybe you could lower the entire home a little bit, set it down a little bit more, but I don't know that I work with the grades that you have. But
Unfortunately, it doesn't work with the grade.
Right,
but-
okay. But if you could I think you could reduce the massing by reducing the height a little bit, and if you could do that, I think I could be in favor of this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Else? Okay, I think you have, to sum it up, I think everybody, all the comments suggest that if there's any way that it could be somehow, the height especially could be reduced somewhat, that would be helpful, and simplified a little bit, I think would be helpful. And I think the comments are fairly consistent, hopefully, and be helpful to you.
Yes, I think they are. But if I may just add, like, to the square footage of the house, 9850 right across the street is very similar to this house. And my reference to the brown house, the original brown farmhouse, was actually a very small house, but has been massively added on to
Right.
over the years. So therefore, today, it is a comparable house. But I do appreciate all the comments, and I think I take out of this that we need to lower the roof. And so
Yeah, I
we
think
will
that's,
definitely- I got that and some siding changes. I think
That's
we can work on
probably
that.
a good thing to think about, yes.
And also, I will also confirm that the houses line up with the site plan.
Okay,
And
terrific.
have all that stuff corrected and bring it back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is minutes from October 23rd. I have not had a chance to look at the minutes, so.
Just punt them down the road.
What's that? Anybody have a chance to look at the minutes? Or do we have minutes? Okay.
You do have minutes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. It's the
Well, if no
October
one has had a
25th
chance to look
minutes.
at them, let's defer till next time and have somebody look at them and make a motion next time. I think it's important to look at, oh, did you look at them? Okay, thank you. So we will vote on the minutes next time. If you could remember to put that in the, I will personally look at them as well. For the next meeting, that would be great. Any commission items? Any staff items?
No staff items, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.